This is volumes of spheres. A sphere is the set of all points in space that are the same distance from a point called the center, and the radius is the distance to any point on the sphere. A common example of a sphere is a basketball. A basketball is an example of a sphere. When we're talking about 1/2 of a sphere, we call it a hemisphere. The volume of a sphere is the product of 4/3 times pi and the cube of the radius of the square. So we can write our formula as 4/3 times pi times r cubed, where r is our radius, or we can break it up and write it as 1/3 times 4 times pi times radius cubed. Sometimes I like this version more, and what I do is the 4 times pi times radius cubed, and I just divide by 3 at the end because that's the same as multiplying by 1/3. So here's our first example. We're being asked to find the volume of this sphere and round our answer to the nearest tenth. So all we need to know in order to find the volume is the radius. So I'm going to do 1/3 times 4 times pi, and my radius is 4, so I'm doing 4 to the 3rd power. I want to do my exponent first, so I'm going to do 4 times 4 times 4, which gives me 64. Now to plug this in my calculator, I'm going to do 4 times pi times 64, and I'm going to divide by 3. And we're going to round our answer to the nearest tenth, and it's going to be approximately a volume of 268.1 centimeters cubed. Now in this problem, we're being asked to find the missing radius. So in order to find the radius, I'm going to plug 288 times pi in for my volume, and that's going to equal 4/3 times pi times radius cubed. Now what I'm going to do here to get the radius part by itself is divide each side by 4/3 times pi. Now the 4/3 will cancel here, the pi will cancel here, and on this side the pi will cancel also. Pi divided by pi will give me 1. So I'm left with 288 divided by 4/3. Well, when I'm dividing by a fraction, I can always make my other number a fraction by giving it a denominator of 1. And I'm actually going to do 288 over 1 times 3/4. So I can multiply by 3 and divide by 4, or multiply by 0.75. And for this total, I get 216. So 216 equals my radius cubed. Now I'm looking for a number that multiplied by itself 3 times is going to give me 216. And I know it's going to be greater than 4 because I just did 4 here. And 4 times 4 times 4 gave me 64. So I'm going to try working up from there. So 5 times 5 will give me 25. Times 5 is 125. Not quite enough yet. 6 times 6 is 36. Times another 6 is 216. So I get 6 inches as my radius. Let's take a look at this real life problem. We've got a silo, which is a cylindrical piece topped with a hemisphere. And they're telling us that the hemisphere piece has a radius of 12 feet. So this measure right here, this radius piece is 12 feet, which must mean that the height of the cylindrical piece is 40 feet, because 40 plus 12 would give us the grand total height of 52 feet. They want us to find the volume of this silo and round our answer to the nearest 1,000. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to find the volume of this bottom piece. It's a cylindrical bottom piece, and we heard that the circles have a radius of 12 feet in this case. So for this volume, I do the area of the base times height. So the area of the base is going to be my radius squared times pi, and the height of the cylindrical piece is 40, so times 40. So the first thing I want to do is my exponent, so I get 144 times pi times 40. And I'm going to round this to the nearest tenth for right now. So that gives me a total of 18,095.6 feet cubed. Now that's just for the bottom piece of the silo. Now I have to do the hemisphere piece. So that's the part that's sitting on top. We know it's got also a radius of 12 feet, and we're going to use our sphere formula. So I'm doing 4/3 times pi times my radius of 12 to the third power. So 4/3 times pi times 1,728. So I'm actually going to do this whole problem, but I'm going to divide it by 2. And the reason that I want to divide by 2 at the end is because I'm not doing an actual whole sphere, I'm doing a hemisphere. So I'm going to do 4 times pi times 1,728 divided by 3 and then divide by 2. Or if I want, I can combine them and just divide by 6 total. And that's going to give me 3,619.1 feet cubed. So if I'm going to add these two together to get the complete volume, I'm going to add my 18,095.6 and my 3,619.1, and I'm going to get 21,714.7 feet cubed. Now they asked us to round to the nearest thousand. So here's my thousand place. So it looks like about 21,000, but whenever I'm rounding, I look at the number to the right, and it's a 7. So it's going to round up to, this silo holds about 22,000 feet cubed